All right, man. Today is Tuesday. It is August 15th. Welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. Here with Chief as always. We're over Zoom right now. I think it's just going to kind of be our reality that we might have to mix one of these in once in a while now that the Chicago office is getting so filled. So we apologize, but it's just kind of part of the reality at this moment.
Blame Pete. Office supposed to be ready. I mean, we've known this move is coming for forever, and now we're backed up a little bit.
Yeah.
So we
So who
got
knows? I mean,
we
hopefully
got
not.
dogs gnawing on bones in the background. We got motorcycles going by.
Yeah.
And
So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. It just is what it is. So obviously we want to give you in-person recordings and with video and whatnot. But it is what it is. We're gonna make do and make the best of what we have right now. But how are you, Chief? It's weird doing these on Zoom. We don't do these all the time like this.
no, I feel like it's probably been since the pandemic since we did like a true Tuesday episode over Zoom. I'm good. I'm a little spent. I played we went up, we have a White Sox Dave Cup challenge coming out a little bit. I ended up playing a good amount of pickleball, and that's a sport where it's like I haven't had to move quickly. I don't know, years. So anytime I have to do that, it's my hips and everything's a little sore. So I'm a little tired. I'm a little hungry. I'm borderline hangry. My body's sore, but we're gonna do it. We're gonna get through it.
Yeah, so that challenge comes out on Friday. We had White Sox Dave play a pickleball pro. He used a frying pan and then he used some other apparatus. I don't even know what it was called.
It
Uh,
it looked like a cricket bat,
yeah,
but it was actually like a tool to like it was like a coaching thing for baseball. I had never seen one before, but the guy was impressive nonetheless.
yeah, very good. And then also I interviewed the owner of the club. He that will be airing on Thursday. So yeah,
Shout out the
nice.
Chicago Slice.
There you go, Chicago Slice. But yeah, so that's coming out on Thursday, the interview with the owner. Kind of just a interesting conversation in general about pickleball and how it's blown up and how he got into it and everything. So I
I
enjoyed
gotta
it.
say, I think I'm in on pickleball. I had a really fun time doing that,
Yeah.
and felt like a good workout, good sweat. So we got to get a net for the new office. Just put it on the basketball court, and I'm in on that game.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Speaking of merch, you just showed yours. I'm just going to show you my RHOBACK polo right here. I got the performance polo. RHOBACK's the best. You guys know the drill by now. What do we got? 3 more weeks until Labor Day? Just crazy.
Yeah,
Football season is coming fast, but like golf season, at least in Chicago, it'll keep rolling around until October. So you go grab your performance polos over there at roback.com, or it's
get
perfect.
ready, get ready for.
Yeah.
I can't wait for jogger season. I can't wait to have. They have the best hoodies going, so they're
Mhm.
super comfortable. They look good. They're stylish. So I'm ready for apple picking and pumpkin patches with my RHOBACK joggers and hoodie.
There we go. And then obviously don't sleep on the quarter zips as well. A
Yep.
little more dressed up, but if you still want to be able to be casual but dressed up and feel good, Roback's definitely the way to go with that. And just making sure you use code DOG on roback.com for 20% off all new customers through the end of this week. That's spelled RHOBACK.com. That's 20% off all hoodies, joggers, and polos with code DOG. Give them a shot if you haven't used them yet. I don't know what you're waiting for. Roback's the real deal. So it's good stuff. Go check it out. Use that promo code. Make sure you use it fast because it expires at the end of the week. So yeah, it's that easy.
Yeah,
Uh,
that logo is great too. I feel like a good logo goes a long way. That dog, that's a handsome. It looks kind of like an in shape version of George. Although the vet said he lost a little bit of weight, so shout out to George.
Shout out to George. Shout out to George. All right. So I think we're continuing our fast food conversation like we talked about yesterday in the draft. And we could have went many directions with this. We looked at like fun facts list. We looked at interesting stories, lawsuits potentially, but we just decided to keep picking on Subway.
Well, Subway, it's like a touch 'em all. You want a funny story? Subway. You want a horrifying story? Subway. You want to have something that like blows your mind? Subway. They are, the more I dug into it, it's the most like it's a business that doesn't make any sense. But I will say all indications are that Subway is kind of heading in the right direction, like a little bit of a turnaround here.
Oh, yeah.
So they had a rough year for and we'll get into it. 2015 was a bad year and a sad year for them, but they've been doing some things to And they've had just funny headlines since then where it's like they go viral for the wrong reasons. But it feels like it's starting to turn around a little bit.
Right, I'm sure Trent would be thrilled to hear that.
Yeah.
So where do you want to start? Do we start with the 25th?
Well, I think, and I was leading the charge, and I just like we talked about this tweet a little bit on the draft yesterday, but I had this tweet that went not like viral, but it had like over 1,000 likes and a ton of replies and had like a big discussion. I said, I don't understand how Subway has so much money for commercials when I don't know anyone who would admit to eating it. And then Trent was in my mentions. Dana was in my mentions. Tom Lay, our producer, says he has it once a week. Brandon Walker, apparently big fan. Robbie Fox, big fan. Okay. So I started with this premise that they have to be spending a shit ton on advertising and marketing because you just see it everywhere, right? Like if you think of like who's been their spokespeople recently, they've had Charles Barkley, they've had Tony Romo, they've had Tom Brady. They got Tom Brady when he dropped a book in a diet where it's like, don't eat tomatoes, but you can eat fucking bread that's not bread and tuna fish that has no tuna in it. But they got Brady. They got paid Brady whatever they paid him. Steph Curry, Simone Biles, Megan Rapinoe, Gronk, Jeter, Patrick Mahomes, Marshawn Lynch. It is like a who's who of celebrity athletes in the last 7 years who have like lent their name to Subway. Like, and they're on, I feel like they have commercials for every sport. I remember it became like a joke meme of Part of My Take for a while because the Mike and Mike show back when that was a thing, they had the Subway Fresh Take hotline. And they were talking about that every 5 seconds. Like their advertising was everywhere. I was surprised to learn that they actually have the 5th largest spend in advertising for fast food. They're behind in total dollars. They're behind McDonald's, Domino's was number 2, Burger King, and Taco Bell. So, and they have actually cut their advertising spending by 58% since 2012. So they used to spend over $500 million a year. Now they're down to like 220 something as of 2021. So they like Subway for having like what I in my brain, it's I don't know if it's like their ads pop more. I remember them more. Maybe it's a celebrity thing. Maybe I'm not eating Subway, but I'm remembering their ads. So I feel like on some level that must be affected because I feel like I see more of their ads than really any other company.
So you named off the 4 in front of them. McDonald's obviously is McDonald's. You see that everywhere. And I feel like they're not even as much commercial anymore. They're more like partnerships. Like they'll be like McDonald's All-American Game or something like that. Like I feel like you see them there. Domino's really does do ads a lot. You see the Domino's commercials all the time.
You definitely do. You definitely
do. Would you say Taco Bell and Burger King too? I mean the chicken Whopper, that right there was probably
But I feel like I'm trying to remember, like when I think of Burger King ads, I think of like flame broiled. I feel like they always have that iconic shot of like the burger over like the grill with the flame going. And I think of like the Plastic King, but the Plastic King, he hasn't been a thing in a long time. Like I can't think of like a normal current ad for Burger King like I can with Subway, where they've had recently Tom Brady, they've had Steph Curry, they've had all these people, where Burger King is just like maybe that's just burgers flipping. Like I don't know what else they have.
They did that song, the double chicken Whopper. I mean, that was fucking everywhere.
I'm having it's not ringing a bell as much.
You don't know that song?
Like I couldn't, if you were like, if this was a dozen trivia and they're like, they gave me the tune or something, I'd be like, fuck, I don't like that. What you just said it was not ringing a bell for me.
Really? No. Oh, well.
Yeah.
We'll bypass. And I guess Taco Bell kind of, you see it a decent amount, but whatever, regardless, Subway, the top 5 makes sense. It does seem like they're around a lot.
Yeah. And the business is kind of turn around. So that we made a big thing about them having the most stores anywhere. And we'll get into why that is. And it's still true, but they have closed thousands of locations around the world, especially in the United States. They don't make it easy on their owners and their franchisees by any stretch, but they have, it's basically like you could find like 7 Subways in a 10-mile radius at times, like, because there was no, like, they didn't protect their own franchisees. So it was like whoever wanted one could put one wherever. And eventually they realized that it was bad for business. So they started closing some. And then their sales are actually in 2022 were up by 9.2%. So that's what I'm talking about, trending in the right direction. People buying more Subway, people in my mentions when I talked shit about Subway last year. And now there's rumors swirling around. So they're owned by some kind of parent company called Doctors. It's like Doctors Investments or something like that, which I had never heard of. I don't know what else they do. There's rumors that Subway is pursuing a sale, like as a corporation, to like Yum Brands or some of these other bigger companies for $10 billion. So they've cut back locations, they've trimmed their advertising budget, and their sales are up. So now it's become like, it's not exactly like a laughing stock, at least in the business world, how it was maybe 5-6 years ago. And that was all really about 2015 was a bad year for them. Bad year and a sad year, like I said. So that's when Jared, their spokesman, Jared Fogle, got popped. So he got popped like for basically running and participating in a child pornography ring. I think it's very famous at this point. So he's going to jail, or has been in jail and will be in jail until 2029. Horrible monster. When I was like looking up things, like I had never heard these before, but they have him like someone who's wearing a wire, the phone tap or something, but they had him like, it's sickening the way that he was talking about like these children. I don't know. It was like the first time I had ever heard of it, but like he was definitely, because he used to go around and speak at schools. So he would have like these handlers in like these middle schools. And he said like that was his preference, was middle school girl. It is like horrifying to hear him, and like it was disgusting. So that was obviously, he made millions upon millions of dollars being the spokesman for Subway, because he said he lost 200 something pounds. I think it was 243 pounds by walking and eating Subway as opposed to eating, your other fast food chains that we mentioned yesterday. And then the other thing that happened to them in 2015 was that their founder, this guy, Fred DeLuca, he passed away. So Fred DeLuca, it turns out, kind of an interesting guy too. It started with one single sub shop in 1965. They rebranded into the name we know today as Subway in 1972. But this guy was just, you want to know about why there's just Subways fucking everywhere. They're in 100 different countries. Like I don't even think I can name 100 different countries, but Subway has locations in 100 different countries. But this guy was just obsessed with expansion, and so much so that he was just expanding, especially at the start of the business, and having these places everywhere. He's founded it in Connecticut, and they would be like, how much money are you making? And he was making literally $0, taking losses. And they're like, why are you having 30 stores when you could, if you limited it to your 5, like you would be profitable, pay yourself something, and just expand slower. He goes, it was basically fake it till you make it. Okay. It's fake it till you make it. He said he had a quote where it was like, having more locations creates the illusion of success. Like they weren't making that much money, all these individual stores. And that's actually still a thing today. So if the average gross sales per unit for a typical Subway is like a little over 400,000. Okay. Jimmy John's, like a pretty direct competitor in the sub game, fast sub game, double that. So every year, each Jimmy John's location is making like, I think it was like $868,000 a year that's an average per store. Subway is making half of that. So like for whatever reason, they've never really been able to have like booming sales at any of these locations. And that's, they have like these franchisees where they don't really necessarily know what they're signing up for. And Subway never says no to anybody, but they have all these, like, their big sales pitch is that it is cheaper. Okay. So like the most that you would usually spend to acquire a Subway franchise is about $500,000. Okay. As a comparison, McDonald's, the minimum that you would have to spend to get a McDonald's location is like 1.3 million. So it's a pretty big gap in the barrier to entry. So you do have like a lot of like immigrant families, a lot of people like trying to like run their own business. They're like, they take out a loan and then they get in, they're like, holy shit, like this is actually, Subway kind of takes a lot from the actual franchisees. We'll get into that in a second too. But one of the other big selling points of why they have so many franchises as opposed to low income or low barrier cost, there's like no infrastructure. Okay. So they don't need deep fryers. They don't need ovens. They don't need fucking anything. You need a counter and you need a little bit of refrigeration and maybe one of those fucking yoga mat trays to bake the bread. But it's not, you don't even bake it in an oven. It's like I have it's basically like a big old toaster oven, and that's all they do. You plug it into the wall. That was like their expression. Like, as long as you have an outlet, you're going to be able to open up a store. So you need like minimal square feet. You need a refrigerator to keep some of your shipment of vegetables and your meats and whatever, maybe a toaster oven, and maybe like a convection oven that you plug into the wall. That's it. And so it just was like, all right, well, I'm going to chase this American dream. I'm going to be my own boss and run my own business. And I'm going to open up a Subway, and Subway basically never said no to anybody. And that's how you end up with 37,000 plus locations in 100 different countries.
Yeah. That's something I guess I kind of was aware of, that this guy was just all about quantity. Like he just want them everywhere. And I've been to it. I dabble in Subway here and there.
I went through a Subway phase.
Yeah.
But it was
I'll get it once in a while. And it's like, it's barren in there, man.
It's tough. And
there's just not much movement.
Yeah. And I love sandwich. I like Jimmy John's. I've said that on the show yesterday too. That was my first job. Usually I feel like if you work in a food place, you're kind of turned off from the food forever. At least that's what people say. I don't feel that way about Jimmy John's at all. I love Jimmy John's. And but Subway, they had my parents, their house is in like the far western part of St. Charles or Campton Hills or whatever. And it was all farms over there for forever. And then maybe like 15 years ago, they started having like little strip places, and they put in a McDonald's, a Taylor Street Pizza, and a Subway. So when I would be home, like in the summer, I would like maybe once every couple of weeks, maybe more than that, would go over and get a Footlong sandwich.
And back then it was probably more crowded too. It's just like something where it just seems like it kind of plummeted, which I do think a big part of it is.
But sales are up. But sales are up almost 10%.
Yeah, I don't know how that makes sense, but it is a thing where the other sub places did up their game a lot.
Yeah, like they had a lot of competition.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were the only real sub game in town for a long time. And I feel like Jersey Mike's has come on in a big way, and Jimmy John's is huge. And I feel like there's one other, Firehouse Subs is another one.
They're big. Potbelly, like Dave Draft.
Potbelly, yeah. For some reason in my brain, I put Potbelly in a different category. Like they're like a Quiznos almost to me.
Yeah, I mean, well, they've
hot sub.
They beat the brakes off of Quiznos. And then there's Penn Station's kind of popping up a little bit more.
I don't know if
Penn Station.
I don't think so. Yeah. But this is like where with the other like little Subway factor here that makes it tough on their franchisees is that they take 12.5% of the gross, and you have to pay that out weekly. So it's your margins, even though your barrier to entry is a lot smaller, your margins are shit. And like McDonald's, they're making a lot more money. Okay. They're making millions of dollars per year, but the franchise, I think it only takes like 6%. So like McDonald's like lets their people breathe. It's more expensive to run and more expensive to get in. But once you're in, it's not like they're raking you over coals. To have Subway take double that. And then this is where like the advertising thing kind of becomes insane, is because they're behind those other four restaurants that I mentioned: Burger King, McDonald's, Taco Bell, and I can't remember the last one.
McDonald's, Taco Bell, and Domino's.
Domino's. They're behind them, okay? But part of that 12.5% that franchisees have to pay, 4.5% of that goes to advertising dollars. So if you're thinking of it as how much you're spending as a percentage of sales, Subway is through the fucking roof. Like they're like quadruple if you judge it by that, based on how much money is coming in versus how much is going out. They're spending a gazillion dollars. And it's like they probably have to do that because they're getting sued, and they have like funny, bad, negative, viral PR that happens all the time. So they just have to keep pumping money back in to kind of counteract what's going, stories in the New York Post. And like the most famous one, we talked about it yesterday, was that they had this woman sued, and this is going to make Subway look good here too. That's what I mean. Like they're on the up and up. So the tuna, famous tuna fish one, right? She sued them basically for false advertisement. Hey, like, you're saying that this is tuna. I've been buying all this tuna. There's no tuna in here. So they bought 20 subs from Subway from 20 different locations, and they tested the tuna. And the report came back. That there was no detectable tuna DNA in any of the tuna. Okay, none. So they take it to court, and they're like, first they had to like, will the judge even hear this? And this was last summer. And the judge was like, yeah, we'll hear it. Like, we're going to hear that case. It's like, all right, shit. So now they go to court, and they're having a very hard time like coming up with the evidence that they said they did. And the woman who initially claimed it, that was suing them, was trying to like get out of it. Like, I'm going to drop this. And somebody was like, no, we're going to see this out to the end. And she was like, well, like, I'm in the third trimester of my pregnancy. I'm having a very difficult pregnancy. I can't be coming to court, this and that. The judge eventually dismissed the case on like the lack of like hard evidence about the tuna. Subway actually launched a website called subwaytunafacts.com, where they were going to like say where they source their tuna, how much tuna is in it, all this stuff. And it's like, the only thing we have in our tuna is tuna and mayonnaise and maybe like some spices, but like all normal stuff. So they went hard after this woman. So the judge throws it out. Subway's like, no. This woman caused us unbelievable, like irreversible damage to like that item and our brand. So they were like, we are seeking $617,000 in legal fees just from like having their lawyers and whatever from the pregnant woman who was suing them. And they're like going after her in court, trying to get that money, because it's like what you did. Like they probably could have sued her for more based upon like damage to the brand, but like, no, like you cover our massive legal fees that you made us go through to the tune of $617,000. So, I mean, score one for Subway there, but I feel like this came out after Subway had a class action lawsuit against them in 2016 because their footlongs weren't a footlong. Okay.
Yeah, that's the famous one, right?
Yeah.
Can I just say too, I'm kind of on Subway's side there. There's always people who try to take these little short corners. They try to cut corners to like make a quick buck against corporations because they obviously can. And I'm not like fucking Mr. fucking Johnny conglomerate business, but hey, if they want to clap
corporations back, are people too, right, Ed?
Hey, I mean, if they want to clap back and they They got it. Good for them.
Yeah.
But wait, how did they explain have the 20 subs that popped for no tuna though?
So that was like her own she had
Oh,
like outside count. So it's like if you did it at scale and they were like, it's chicken in here, there's pork in here, but we can't find any tuna. For whatever reason, the judge said that like she wasn't able to produce enough evidence of those studies and how the studies were conducted, and it wasn't like large enough to like prove her case. So then she was just trying to be like, oh, I'm just going to drop this, and Subway said, we're going to wait for the judge to rule, and then once the judge rules, they were able to seek the legal fees because the judge dismissed it because there were no grounds. That the 20 sub test that she conducted wasn't good enough.
so does she have to pay it?
That just happened. That ruling just came down, and this is what I mean. I kind of feel bad for Subway to a degree too. Everybody knew that was like they covered it in the New York Post. It was everywhere. Subway tuna has no actual tuna in it, but the thing where the case gets dismissed, that was just at the end of June. So it's like 6 weeks ago that they were cleared of this, and no one knows about it because it's not a funny headline. So,
True.
so I think that's probably why they want it in the news. We're going to go after this. We're going to punish this woman because our tuna does have tuna in it per
And
sub.
they won the Footlongs too, right?
No, they lost that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they lost that suit. So that was 10 people sued them. This was in 2016. And Subway had to cover the legal fees of the 10 people. Leave that alone. Of the 10 people. And so that was $500,000. So Subway had to pay the lawyers. This is like a huge win for the lawyers. So the lawyers get $500,000 for taking Subway to court because same thing. Like they went out and got all these subs from various locations, and most were between 11 and 11 and a half inches. We're talking like this much, like half a bite, Okay, we're talking about half a bite, and it's the end bite. A lot of times that bite gets thrown away anyways. It's a bad bite. So, but it's just like sometimes I wonder like what corporations are thinking too. So they had to cover the legal fees, and then each of the 10 plaintiffs, because like I said, class action was probably just like 10 buddies being like, hey, these subs aren't long enough. They got $500 a piece. Okay, so $500 a piece. Definitely not, more than what they were missing on that half a bite that Subway was robbing them from. But Subway's like statement on this, okay? It's like, can't you just be in on the joke? They're never like corporations, they just can't be in on the joke. And so this was their official statement. This allows us to move forward without distractions on our goal to provide great tasting sandwiches and salads made exactly as each guest likes. We have already taken steps to ensure that each guest receives a full Footlong sub in the future. And it's just like you could just be like, we're give a half an inch, we're gonna fix, like just joke around. Like, you guys fucked up. You're making your sandwiches too short by accident, probably. Or maybe it was on purpose. Maybe they're like, no one will notice this half inch. And at scale, this saves us, $2 million a year.
They should have just changed the commercials, the $5 foot long.
Yeah.
They changed it to $5 sometimes a foot long.
Yeah.
Like
that would have been funny. And then everybody would have been like, oh, hey, let's go get an 11 and a half inch sub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, and I don't know, is that all you have?
No, there's the Ireland one, which is to me maybe the funniest one.
Oh, all right. Get into that.
So Ireland, they have this, it's on the books. Like they have a law where they, because bread is considered a staple food. So bread has to meet certain criteria. And this went to the Irish Supreme Court. In the Irish Supreme Court, that Subway's bread is not bread. Okay. So there's certain amounts of sugar to flour ratios that you're allowed to have in order to be considered bread in Ireland. Subway's bread is 5 times the legal limit to be considered bread. So not great. I don't know how Jared lost all that weight if he's just woofing down sugar bread. And then that's again, it's just like a funny statement to read. But their official is like, our bread is of course bread. That was like, they're like no, it's not. And then the Irish Supreme Court came out with they had somebody speaking off the cuff in an interview, like, this should be advertised as cake with ham in it because it has so much sugar that it's legally much closer to what the Irish would consider cake as opposed to a staple like healthier food of just like your regular bread. So they they lost out on that one. Subway still exists in Ireland and England and everywhere else, but like they legally cannot advertise like a foot long in a bread. It's just like they can't say that they serve bread because they don't serve bread. They serve like sugar pastries.
See, but that's one thing too. I'll defend Subway. I bet all these fast food places bread is sugared to the gills.
I remember this is going to be like directionally correct, but I remember hearing not Subway, but McDonald's used to have those salad like shakers. It would basically be in like almost like a McFlurry kind of cup with a lid on it.
Yeah.
And you'd put the dressing on, you'd shake it up or whatever. And it was like, here's your healthy option. Then when they looked at it, it had so much sugar and all the dressing and all the stuff that it ended up having more calories in your salad shaker than a Big Mac.
Yeah.
So it's like
at all time. That stuff like the Portillo's chopped salad is worse than a beef. Like, my God. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that Portillo's chopped salad too, like that thing's just fucking awesome. Like, it's got like the little noodles in there. It's got the bacon bits. Like while you're eating that, you're like, this is way too good to be a salad. And then you put the dressing on and then they're big. So I feel like even when you're eating those, you kind of know that that's trash, but it tastes good.
Yeah.
Salad. But yeah. And then their only other thing is that they were caught. If you think of like the Subway, they have like the trays where they bake their bread in these non-stick mats, and the non-stick mats are the same material as the chemical material that they use to make yoga mats. That's like they had shaped them into these things, and that was what they would bake their bread in. So naturally, their bread was testing positive for having all these chemicals. So coming off of like the PFOA one we did, I think that was just last week, talk about all those forever chemicals. I don't think this is a forever chemical, but again, it's like if I'm eating bread, I don't want it to be cake with yoga mat in it. I would like it to just actually be bread. But that's kind of the end. But Subway, I feel like, maybe I hand up, maybe I was a little too hard on them.
And that's what I was gonna say. That's why I asked you how many are like. I'm kind of predicting a revival. I think now they're sending each store slicers, and they're going to start slicing their meat. I saw recently, which would obviously be huge.
Yeah, I mean, Jersey Mike's does that. It's a nice touch.
Yeah, I mean, it's just where it's coming, but I don't know. We'll see.
But here's like the other thing with that, like I don't even know if it really matters because the meat, like if you're not getting like good quality deli meat, like they tell you pregnant women, like, oh, don't eat this deli meat. They're like, what do you mean? It's turkey. Well, it's not turkey. It's filled with all this fucking
nitrates and shit,
chemicals, gluten filler. Like they put flour in there, and it's not like you're just shaving off because a woman could eat a turkey breast when she's pregnant, right, or a chicken breast. But it's like those. If you go to the grocery store, you can kind of see them where it's like it's the condensed, somehow it's all condensed and stuck together. That's the shit that's like bad for you. So if you slice it fresh, it's a nice touch. It looks nice. I've always wanted to, I wasn't at Jimmy John's long enough to be able to use the slicer. Always wanted to try a slicer. Always wanted to. It looks sweet.
Yeah, I could see like this TikTok generation having some type of Subway challenge or something, and it like revives the whole chain. I don't know. There's something there.
They got to get Happy Gilmore on TV more.
Yeah,
he was their biggest and best endorser ever.
Yeah, true.
So talk about a hole in one.
True. Well, all right. I don't know if I left this rooting for Subway or not. I mean, certainly. Listen, we'll be Subway guys if they want to sponsor the pod.
I will go back to eating cake with ham in it for Subway for sure. Sponsor.
Yeah. But all right then. Anything else?
I think that's all I got.
That's it.
Where did you rank it? I mean, we can get heavier into the Jared stuff if you want, but I feel like that bothers me.
I mean, that's like I think I want to. Has there been a good doc on that? I think there has been, but I didn't.
Jared?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was
crazy.
It's called To Catch a Monster, and it was on Netflix for a while. It's no longer on Netflix. But it's like that whole there's something I watched recently, maybe last weekend. I watched the movie Spotlight, with I was on a Ruffalo kick, so I watched Dark Waters, and then he was in Spotlight. That's about the Catholic Church. Then you got the documentary about Penn State. There's this other movie. It's out now, or was out. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's made $100 million. It's all about like child trafficking, and it's like the Department of Homeland Security says it's like the biggest illicit industry. It's almost as big as like the drug industry now, because you can
Sound of Freedom.
What?
Sound of Freedom.
Yeah, I think that's it. And but the guy that not the guy, the Department of Homeland Security says it's so however much you trust the government, it says it's like this booming industry, and it's like, well, how can that be bigger than drugs? Like drugs is like, I remember watching like the Pablo Escobar show. He would have oil drums of $20 million of cash buried out in the back of his property. They had too much money to put in the bank, because it was like, that's how big the drug trade was. And now it's like, this is bigger than that. Well, they're like, yeah, because you can sell the same child 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. So it's like, Jesus fucking Christ. So that's a real problem. So between the church and Penn State and Jared and all, it's like these things keep Epstein, like all of these cases, it's crazy, the sprawl of this. And then even like, I remember there was a march. Remember all those girls were going missing in Austin, the neighborhood of Chicago? They had all the mothers were marching. Like they're like hundreds of girls were, abducted in Austin. So it's really fucked up.
It is.
Yeah.
All right, then. That's it. That's talking Subway for almost 40 minutes.
that went by fast. Subway. Yeah.
Talking Subway, talking RHOBACK.
Yeah.
Go buy some RHOBACK. Thank you, everybody, for listening. That's it for today. We'll be back tomorrow, obviously, for a free swim, and then we'll be back Thursday with Ron Sassalo, the owner of the Chicago Slice. All right, everybody. Thank you. See you then.
Let's go.